Since 1837, think about it, 1837, the Baltimore Sun has been the leading newspaper in the state of Maryland. But beginning in 1986, the Sun has been sold several times to different media companies. And finally, it was purchased out of bankruptcy by a hedge fund, Alden Global Capital, in May of 2021. Mike, it was announced this week that the Sun and the Capital Gazette newspapers were being purchased by David D. Smith, the head of Sinclair Media Group, which is located in Hunt Valley outside of Baltimore. So we have a local guy buying it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't think we know yet. I think it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think one of the things that has been positive about some of the stuff that he's done, especially through Sinclair in Baltimore, has been some of the investigative journalism that they've undertaken. And so I think if that's an approach that they take, it could be very positive. It's also been very conservative. And does this tie into where Sinclair kind of has gone with their broadcasting, which I'm not necessarily sure is reflective of where the city of Baltimore is kind of from on a broader ideological perspective and just from a straight journalism perspective. And that could be a bad thing if he kind of goes in that direction. And so I think that at this point, it's a bit of a wait and see scenario. There's some potential positives and some potential negatives, and we're going to have to go. On the plus side, there's still a Baltimore Sun. So I think that's one positive element that we should look at, is it because it has been a challenge and it's been difficult for local newspapers to make a go of it, and it's still here, and so there's an opportunity for there to still be a media market in Baltimore.
Well, I'm a subscriber to the Baltimore Sun online because they do have great stories, particularly covering the General Assembly and others. Stacey, while not owned technically by Sinclair Media, won't the sale of the Sun allow it to be partnered with Sinclair's television station, Fox 45, which has won a few awards recently?
I think that's very possible that you're going to see that cross-pollination there because they're likely going to be covering some of the same stories. Listen, I have a master's in journalism. I worked in broadcasting for many years. I was a TV reporter for a little while. And so I love journalism. I'm a journalism junkie. I'm a news junkie. And so I understand a little bit of Sinclair's message or David Smith's message in saying that he just felt like the reporting in the Baltimore Sun was very lopsided. I too, at least until recently, I was a subscriber. I get the digital format, and I found that in like their local news, that tended to be the case. I felt like that it was very lopsided reporting, and they do have some good stories about what's going on up in the legislature. But overall, I think that this might be good for competition.
Well, what's interesting, the LA Times recently just announced a layoff of 20% of their staff. So newspapers are taking a big hit, and unless they are able to pivot to a tech-friendly format that spurs people to eyeball it, it's going to be a challenge.
Well, as I mentioned to you a little while ago, Casey, that one of the things that we saw, and this is the risk, and that is that with the digital format of the newspaper, if the content becomes much more heavily invested with video from the broadcasting station from Fox 45, then it could end up diluting the effect of what the current newspaper is, and they may end up losing readership over that.
No, I think it's a real challenge, just readership in general. We've gotten to so many formats now that people just view video. And so I think it's just difficult for people to read long formats, which I think is where you actually get good information. And so I'm curious to see how this plays out just in media in general. But I am hopeful for the Baltimore Sun, and I hope that this is a constructive relationship.
Well, I'm not a subscriber to the New York Times, but I do know that the New York Times reinvented itself a few years ago and is more profitable by incorporating obviously a paywall, which already exists for the Sun, but also incorporating news stories that were more media friendly rather than strictly a print format. So I think we're going to have to wait and see. I know there's a big hullabaloo by the staff. They're very afraid of the editorial direction of the Baltimore Sun. I think people want straight journalism. I think they're tired of, the optics of, one side versus the other. Now, newspapers have already leaned one way or the other, but, maybe it's time to have more of a balanced approach.
But I think it's hard, and I think you're right. I mean, I think we kind of live in the echo chamber now, and most people only need to get the news that they want to see on the issues that they want to hear. And I think it's difficult to find a place where you can get that. Just tell me this. I need to know the story, and I'd like to understand the context that the story is being told in, and I can make a decision from there. But those opportunities don't exist that much anymore.
I agree
Stacey,
with
what's
Mike.
very, very interesting. Let me pose this question. Both the Baltimore Sun prides itself on being a Pulitzer Prize winning newspaper, and Fox 45 has won investigative reports or awards for its investigative journalism. If they combine the two, will it be successful?
Well, to Mike's point, well, I think we're going to have to wait and see how that goes. And I hope that they fine tune it along the way if they find out that it's not working, just for the sake of preserving the newspaper. But I also agree with Mike's point that we need, no matter what, that it's really important to be getting the facts so that the readers or the viewers can make their own informed decisions. And if you've got the too right-leaning or too left-leaning, then you're not getting that. And we have an uninformed electorate as a result of it.
Well, we're gonna have to see what happens as the newspaper addresses and makes some editorial changes.